Okay, welcome everybody. Tracy, I believe you're going to be recording. I don't see any recording yet, but welcome everybody. This is our webinar, How to Not Be Underpaid, Retainer Best Practices, Clients Management, and Setting Flat Fees. And this is sponsored by the YLD Immigration and Nationality Law Committee. I am Sarah Brunet. I am your chair this year, and I'm very happy to welcome you for this webinar, which I think is going to be very interesting. It's a great way to start the year, how to not be underpaid, how to maybe recover from a difficult 2020 year. And I invited some great panelists today. We're going to welcome John Khosravi, Stephen Ladik, and Jacob Sapochnik. They're all going to introduce themselves. And as you will see, they're very well versed in clients management and profitability. And they all have diverse backgrounds. So I think it's going to be very interesting to hear from them. So John, welcome. Maybe you can first introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm John Khosravi. I'm an immigration lawyer in Los Angeles, California. I focus primarily on USCIS type cases, especially marriage cases. And, I also have the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, which is the training program for immigration lawyers. And we're going to have our first magazine out next couple weeks. And then also there's a podcast, Immigration Lawyers Podcast, which you may know me from. And managing the business of immigration law, or just, law in general and clientele and all that, is so vital. So I'm really happy to be here to talk about it.
Well, thank you and welcome, John. Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I've been practicing business immigration for about, I hate to give away my age, but 37 years. Jacob's not even that old yet, but and luckily in the beginning of my career, there was a partner at a large firm I was at who represented the owner of the Dallas Mavericks basketball team, who also owned a soccer team. And they basically forced me to figure out how to do sports immigration. And it was a great way to learn. And I've continued doing that. And now at this stage of my career, as you can see by my background, I pretty much all I do is sports immigration with a focus on golf and all the related occupations.
Really fun, really nice. Jacob, how about you?
Thanks, Sarah, for the opportunity. So my name is Jacob Sapochnik. I'm also an immigration attorney. I'm based in San Diego, California. My practice is, we have a small boutique firm. We're about 30 of us, and we focus, it's a full service law firm, but my specialty is immigration investment, E2 visas, and IW, helping entrepreneurs and startup founders to move to the US. And I'm excited to continue doing this in 2021. I also have a podcast and a blog called enchantinglawyer.com, where I help attorneys, who want to build their practice on using social media and stuff like that. So I enjoy consulting and working with attorneys on doing that. So yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think it's going to be a really good webinar because you guys are really great experts in this field. So to start this program, I think it's really important to first talk about strategy and planning prior to meeting a client. I think for me, being a young lawyer, I've had to figure out that I can't just leave all my strategy to first meeting my client and see how it's going to go. I have to have some kind of price list. I have to have some kind of strategy before I even get into a first meeting with a client. So we're going to talk first about your background, and all of you have diverse background, from a large firm to a boutique law firm to even just working with content and generating revenue from your content. So maybe you could talk to us about what is your strategy in terms of billing and generating revenue from the size of the law firm, depending on the size of the law firm, and if you do sell content. So
who would you like to start?
Yeah, exactly.
How about I'll jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
So I started with large multi-practice firms, and I've evolved into pretty much a sole practitioner. I mean, with a couple of buddies that don't do immigration law. But the nice thing about a large firm is that they're going to have a huge finance department that's going to handle all of your billing, all of your collections, and you don't need to deal with that. The bad thing about it is there's a large finance department, usually with a CFO who's micromanaging, your business decisions, your collections, your billing, your accounts receivable. The other thing about a large firm, I think a lot of times, even though Abe Lincoln said once, the only thing a lawyer can sell is his time, a lot of us in immigration use flat fees, but a large firm may tend to make you bill your time as well, even though they won't send it to the client, but they use that for bonuses and to see how many hours you're getting in. As a sole practitioner, you can focus on one area within immigration. As I said, I do sports immigration, and I find that after having done these type of cases for so long, I can pretty much set a flat fee that I keep consistently for everybody in that sport, unless there's some strange aspect to the case, because I find that they all talk to each other, and as soon as you give one person a break and they say, hey, can't you just give me 10% off of this? If you go with it, next thing you know, they tell all their buddies, and they're all asking for the same discount or the payout or the same kind of treatment. So I like to bill flat fee right at the beginning of the case. The types of cases we do are done usually within a couple of days. So we have the fee, we have no accounts receivable, and we just apply the funds as soon as we file the case.
Well, and so your experience is from a large firm to a more boutique law firm. So you've seen a lot more freedom in the way you can kind of bill from going from a large firm to a boutique. And it seems like this is a good setup for you working in your field. Maybe John, do you want to share your experience? Because just like Jacob, you also do content. I think it's also interesting to talk about the fact that you generate revenue from your content as well. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your experience.
Sure. I guess, John, I'll jump in first. So I have a full solo practice, and so what I do is I try to almost always do a flat fee up front to no accounts receivable unless it's an existing client or I feel bad, and especially with COVID, to make a payment plan, but it avoids all that headache. But before I even get to that, the clients who come to me have a consultation fee that's relatively high for the industry. So we got a lot of people, and it's people that don't mind the monetary aspect. And what I found is when people contact me first, and like the first thing they ask about is price. One is I never talk about price until we have a full consultation. I tell them that's just the rules, because then people just, in my opinion, look at me on a dollar per dollar basis. You can't compare me appropriately with other people and what they're doing. So having a full consultation, know who I am and how I operate, and the level of service and attention they get differentiates it. So the main thing is to weed out those people, but to have a large lead in capability, so that even if you're weeding out 99% of the people who contact you, which is my average, it still makes a good amount of money, and the firm operates well.
Okay, great. And do you generate revenue directly from your content as well, or is this one of your targets? Or
well, my content, because I train immigration lawyers, so there's that aspect of it, and they see the online marketing I do, and so sometimes they have courses on that. Recently, YouTube changes policy where they have advertisements on everyone's videos. Before, I would not do advertisements before my videos, but once they made it mandatory, I said, okay, now I'll monetize it. So it's about a month, and it's not that much. Probably in the future, if I get more views and stuff, be better. But that is a way to monetize. But essentially, my services are concierge, like individual services. So my content to consumers is not much, but the business to business is growing.
well, what about you, Jacob? Jacob, for the people that don't know Jacob is a superstar on YouTube, on social media. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experience.
So, I mean, I think things have changed during the pandemic for us. I mean, we even though we do flat fees, some cases like E2s and NIWs, or if we have L1s with a big company, they don't pay up front because they have we have milestones. So we've seen people that are finding it hard to pay, and what we decided to do is we decided to set up a dedicated account receivable person, and all she does is every single day we'll email, we'll call people in a nice way just to see how we can help them meet the goals. Because like I said, while we're working on their cases, they still have to find a way to be able to pay us. So we find ways. I mean, we pretty much use everything. Before I wasn't using PayPal to receive payments. Now I'm using pretty much everything. We use Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, transfers, everything, just because to make things easier for people. And we're just going to open up the way for people to make it easier for them to pay. With respect to the content, I think, I think both for me and John, we was very active both on TikTok and YouTube. I think people are getting direct leads and they want to talk to us. And we decided to stop doing any free consultations for the past, I think almost 2 years now. And so the fact that we don't do free consultation, that kind of weeds out the people that are just want to waste your time. And then we have different levels of consultations. They've got the cheaper ones with junior attorneys. You've got the more senior attorneys who charge more. And then there's my rate if somebody wants to talk to me, because my day is limited. I can't talk to everybody. And so that was another way to increase the revenue by focusing on, particular people that are calling us from our social media efforts. And so, yeah,
Well,
I think it's,
yeah, it's very interesting to see that everybody seems to have a different way of doing business. And I love that, Jacob, you started accepting payments from various platforms. I joke because when I send my payment options, there are 13 options. So there's no reason not to pay. So I think it's very interesting. I definitely join you on this. It's easier to get paid if you have a lot of options. So in terms of setting your fees, do you ever take into consideration the competition? And if so, attorney competition and non-attorney competitions like services, paralegal services, or just online do-it-yourself services? Anybody?
I set my fees, and they really don't go up that much because if anything, we get more efficient on these cases. But unlike John and Jacob, my cases are so similar. I really don't even do consultations. The consultation might be a phone call. Please send me some information. I will put the pricing in it. We have repeat clients in the same sport. And then I also don't, and again, this may differ, but I tell people, call me anytime you want. I don't charge. Gives me something to do. But it also, I think it generates over the long run some goodwill that people will spread about your name to their friends. And hey, I can call Steve whenever I want. If a question comes up relating to, a side issue, he's always there for me. We've got his cell phone number. And but again, I think a lot of that approach is easier for me because it's sort of a one type of case practice. Jacob and John are going in all different directions with different kinds of visas. That would be much harder to do that.
of course. And it's interesting because I had this conversation with another attorney that I'm doing. I'm helping him with his practice right now. He's a family attorney, and he was telling me, well, you know what? How can I compete with his other attorneys? They're charging third of what I charge for divorce because of the pandemic and all that. And I tell him, listen, right now, especially in the pandemic, past 6 months, fees don't really matter. What matters is what kind of services and how you approach your clients. So for example, when people see me everywhere and they see John everywhere on YouTube, on TikTok, and they don't see the other 100 attorneys, they immediately trust you and they feel that you can offer more than somebody else. So the fee competition is not relevant anymore. What matters is how fast can you call them back? Will you be there for them when they need you? Are you going to handle the case personally or paralegal? All these are the questions that we get asked, less the fees. Because with the fees, once they come to us, they already understand that they want to work with us already. They just want to know what kind of service they're going to get. And I think, if you start competing on fees, it's just going to be very difficult to not only scale your practice, but also, position yourself as an expert in whatever you try to do.
Right. No, I think it's a really good way of looking at the issue. And you set yourself apart, you provide quality, and you build trust, a relationship with people, and the fees don't matter as much. And definitely you can't compete. Well, I would say non-attorneys can't compete, and other attorneys may not be able to compete with you because you just have created a bond that is invaluable. So I think that's a great way. You just set yourself apart and you just become an expert that people can trust. And in terms of just growing your practice, scaling, or just becoming more profitable, I was wondering if at the beginning of each year, I know I do, but at the beginning of each year, do you guys set business targets? So for instance, you, John, do you have a plan when you start the year to hit certain targets?
I have a plan, but as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And so everything always changed pretty drastically. Like I was just going to focus on L1s, and then I got so many marriage cases, and I was like, that switched things up. And then I'm like, I'm going to focus on marriage cases. Then I got a lot of E2 cases. So it always switches up, but it's good to have a intent and a target. So in the last 3 weeks, I have been analyzing what I did last year, what my plans are for this year, and going forward with an intent. And things shift, it's okay. But having a goal in mind and a direction to go to and a mission, that is vital. So you keep things consistent and not get lost, because you get pushed this way and that way. Just have a focus on what you want to do. In particular, it's the type of practice I have where I take very few types of cases and not getting sidetracked on some potential money that could come, but it's like takes me off my mission and my core direction.
Right. What about you, Jacob? I know you help, attorneys with these kind of issues. Do you advise
So
to
I
have
think what I do is, first of all, I like to have almost like a meeting with our team, just so we kind of understand where we are with respect to our goals and make sure that everybody's on the same page. We share kind of our numbers with the team. We talk about what we've done and the good things, the bad things, and so it's everybody's on the same page. And also, I think I've been very focused in the past 2 years to perfect our systems, because I realized that without systems, just everything's kind of like, up in the air. So systems were how to do cases, how to answer the phone, how to intake cases. So I want to work more on systems even more this year, just kind of especially since we're not in the office, all of us, we haven't seen, I haven't seen some people for like 6 months almost. Two of my senior attorneys, they're not coming there. They have underlying conditions, so they're scared to come to the office. So they haven't been there for 6 months. They work from home. We help them set up a whole office at home. We got them computers and printers and connected their servers to, everybody's connected. So it's important to be in touch virtually. And so everybody's is on the same page. And I think, that's pretty much what I'm doing, trying to give people get a little bit, not depressed, but I feel people feel kind of lonely when they work at home. And then because we used to be in the office and everybody had like lunches and we did all these things. And so now we have this touch base every week and make sure we check on people and make sure that they're fine. And we even hired a person that calls the clients every week to survey them to see how they're doing. We just call them, and it's funny that the first time we started calling, the clients were like, "What are you trying to sell us?" And we was like, "Well, no, we just wanted to see how you're doing, and if you need anything, or one of the clients, she was baking and she burned all her cake or the cookies. She was crying on the phone, and then and so the person told us, and we sent her fresh cookies from the bakery, just kind of as a fun thing to do. But
Well, a cake just burns in my oven. If you want to send in, if you want to send in cookies,
I'll send you to friends. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great idea, though, to have.
You know what I mean? Like being more empathetic, and I stress that in many of the talks that I do. I mean, honestly, nobody cares anymore if somebody's a good attorney or not. All they care about is, will my attorney care? Will he call me back? Will he answer my email within a reasonable time? And that's really what is happening right now because people are just are freaking out, and so customer service has gone down.
Yeah.
And I
Steve,
think
you were going to.
you were talking about business plans. I mean, back in my corporate days, corporate immigration, what you tend to find is that larger corporate clients, they're not going to just change who their immigration law firm is. It's too much, you know, it's literally about people's lives. They're embedded with the immigration lawyer they had. So for a corporation to let go of one firm and hire another they really have to be pushed to a limit. But I think
Mhm.
you can target those companies and you can make sure you're connected with them over social media. You can, you know, they're getting free information from you. And then perhaps, you know, if the time is right and a new person comes in, for instance, to run the HR program, or something goes wrong that rises up to the president of the company, you know, you will be in the forefront of their mind, I think, ready to do a pitch to try to get the business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it seems like you guys kind of approach your business goals differently. It seems like it's also mostly about providing quality and just being available for people. I know that I personally love numbers, and I love to know that I reach my goals each month because it's important for my motivation and also so I don't get overwhelmed. But it seems like everybody has like a different approach to this, and it's good to see that you're all flexible and it's all working out for you.
I love Jacob's idea, though, just if you have a size firm, you know, sufficient to do it. I love the idea of hiring someone who is reaching out to clients. That's really unique. I mean, doctor, how often do you hear from your doctor or his
Right.
nurse, or and most people don't expect that from a lawyer. So I think that is a really unique approach that.
And you know what I realized is what we found is that most clients, they are not going to complain until something bad is going to happen. But a lot of things happen that they're not happy about. For example, we realized that one of our case managers was consistently making typos in the names of our clients. So she was a new hire. She did a good job. She tried. She's really, but she consistently made mistakes in the names of our clients. And you know, my name is very long. I you know, butchered my name, but that hurt the client. But she didn't complain. But on that phone call, she told us. So we went back to to look at some of the files, and we realized that because I can track in the software to see the different changes, and she was doing this on a regular basis to many other clients. So we had a meeting with her and said, listen, this is really important. When you come from a different country, if your name is not spelled correctly, it's a disrespect to some people. So let's put it on our checklist as another thing to check in addition to the form dates, to the versions, to the fees that we send. Let's make that another on our checklist to make sure that you don't misspell the names of our clients.
Right. Well, that's great.
Well, my name used to have an H at the beginning of it, but maybe back in 1900, the immigration lawyer who did the case had a typo and took the H off, and ever since I haven't had it.
One thing
Well,
regarding what Sarah said on the monthly basis, sometimes because things fluctuate so much, look at a quarterly basis so it doesn't freak you out or stress you out too much that one month is lower because the next month might double up and make up for it. So
yeah,
not just
that's
monthly,
true.
but quarterly,
That's
just
true.
quarterly running average.
Yeah, I just love monthly because then I get to like reward myself for meeting my target. You know, when you're solo, you're your own boss. So I guess that's a good part. So now moving to setting a pricing strategy very clearly. I know that some of you have a price list. Some of you provide customized estimates. Some actually, most of you don't do hourly. I do hourly sometimes. And then most of you do flat fees. And then there are some flat fee alternatives that I hope John talks about because I saw his sample fee agreement and I loved that there was a flat fee alternative. So Stephen, maybe you can tell us, you told us that most of your cases are on a flat fee basis and you are consistent so your clients don't feel everybody feels happy to have the same price because you work in a niche market. Do you ever deviate from your policy? How, like, tell us a little bit more.
The only, for all, this applies to all of us, but the only hard thing to do a flat fee on is an RFE. And so what we do is,
And tell us what's an RFE for maybe people that are not practicing immigration.
it's kind of an initial rejection by immigration. You file the case and you get this request for evidence. Now, some of them, for instance, on P visas for athletes, they're cookie cutters. So you've received the same RFE, hundreds of times, and you pretty much, you could classify that as a simple RFE response and do a flat fee on it. Others, for instance, a green card for a superstar athlete, extraordinary ability. They have programs at immigration. I mean, they can hit a button and generate 15 pages of fine print that's going to take you, months to respond to. So those we have a much higher RFE flat fee. Now, the thing is, when you get into that many hours to respond, sometimes you're gonna win, and maybe you were more efficient than the amount of the bill. And sometimes you're gonna be less efficient, and you may wish you had charged more, but what we do is we figure they basically even out in the long run. So we still like to use flat fees.
Okay. Well, I love that you're very consistent and that you see the big picture. What about you, John?
Well, yeah, I've had to make some shifts. So before I wouldn't even charge for RFEs because they're pretty simple or they wouldn't happen. And I was pretty confident that we wouldn't get one, but it just gone so downhill with the immigration service that I have a built-in like 2 hours of free RFE time in case they say we didn't send a birth certificate and we did, and I have to do a write-up and mail it in. But then after that, I charge hourly basis. But many times once I see the RFE, I could make it a flat rate then or give some sort of discount depending on what it is, not to put too much pressure on people because it could go out of control. Like when you get a business kind of investor case RFE on an L1A, for example, it might take 20 hours all of a sudden. The RFE rate fee will be more than the original application fee just because how ridiculous the request is. But I also specify now exactly what the services are because I used to be able to do an expedite request by calling USCIS up really quick and they'll do an expedite. But now I have to get on the phone with them, be on hold for an hour, and then haggle with them, and then they forget to send me an email for the expedite and to call back, and they get a congressperson involved. So now I separate expedite, emergency fees, contacting congressperson fees, ombudsman's office, all these extra services a la carte. So I say there'll be separate fees. I may or may not quote what the fee is at the time. If the client already knows they're going to want to request expedite, I'll say it. If not, just leave it out there. Just to very specifically say what it is, because with the Trump administration, they would add stuff all of a sudden, the public charge would come, go. And so I'd really want to do this. And I also separate out parts of it. If it's a case that's going to be a year or 2 or 3 years, I just have a contract for the initial part. And for a second part, like if consular processing for the immigration, I'll have a separate contract there. I may give an estimate of what I think it's going to be, but because the rules are going to change by that point, I like to keep it open and not lock it in. Some lawyers like to lock it in, have that relationship to make sure they get it. But on the second end, you might not like your client by the time consular processing happens. It's very rare, but sometimes you just want to get away. And that leaves it open by just contracting for specifically what you're doing so you can get out of it easily instead of having to formally get out of it on the next step. So that separation is really good. And then, if you charge costs and printing, filing, stating that in the contract, there is important too.
I saw
On
something.
the costs, excuse me, real quick, Sarah, but on the costs, I mean, I've been in big firms where you get, the client gets a bill, you have 470 copying, pages, and you had 3 long distance calls, and they would really separate and itemize all of that. You have 4 FedExes, one was $17.13, one was $14. So, but to avoid that whole, complication, we have we call it an incidental fee, flat fee, which is basically intended to cover all of our costs. And, we may go over it sometimes, we may go under it, but it would include all of those basic, office expenses, for instance.
Oh, that's wonderful. One thing I wanted to touch on with John, and I know I do the same, I don't know if Jacob does the same, is I also offer flat fees for most of my cases, but what I'll do is I'll do a flat fee, max 8 hours of services, and then if something spirals out of control, so I don't know, maybe something goes wrong with the case or the client requires a lot of handholding, then technically we would bill separately over the 8 hours. I've honestly never had to bill over the time that we had planned in the contract, but I think for my clients, it's a great way to remember that this is not unlimited. It's what's reasonable. And I saw, John, some language in your fee agreement that seemed to be kind of setting that expectation. Do you use it for your clients to have the right expectations, or you definitely enforce these kind of
Well, one thing that happened, especially California bar, is that when you get fees now, you're supposed to technically put in a trust account from what I read other people say, but put in a trust account and take it out as you're using the hours. But when you have a flat rate, you might have it go over or under. It's kind of hard. So I do keep track for my own sake of how much time's going by, and it helps me adjust how much the cost is. But if they decide to not go forward, or I don't want to work with them, I need to know how much to give back or how it works out. So I have my hourly in there listed as well. And I say my services are until filing the case. As soon as it's filed, then it's separate fees. The RFE to our fee happens all that time. So like if they want to talk to me on the phone a lot after submitting it, yeah, that's fine. Call me all you want, but there's a limit. Now in reality, 90+% of the time, even if it goes over 2 hours, if they want to call a lot, as a customer servicing, I don't charge them. That's really in case they get arrested, and then we have criminal issues that pop up. Or they pops up, oh, we forgot to tell you about this. I was married before, I didn't get a divorce certificate, and that hassle. It's weird stuff that pops up. It's an out for me. It even costs. I specify that we do charge for like printing, scanning, faxing, all that stuff. But I tell them the consultation, I don't actually do that. That's really just if all of a sudden you need, 5 copies of your 500-page file sent to China tomorrow. And FYI, you can't send stuff to China easily nowadays because of the coronavirus. I tried to mail one yesterday. We have to get special permission from the CBP. It's a mess if you're just sending stuff. But I leave it. It's all outs for me to be able to get out. But my flat rate covers most cases because I've done it enough where I know the hours. Sometimes it's over, sometimes it's under, and it kind of balances out.
Yeah. What about you, Jacob? Do you offer flat? Do you do hourly?
Yeah. So primarily we are a flat fee firm. We do hourly assignments. So for example, if we do a research or a legal opinion, recently we've been hired to do some legal opinions in different cases. So that will be hourly, but predominantly it's flat fee. And I think it's better for cash flow as well. But what we also started doing is we offered unbundled services. So for example, we have, let's say a client comes in, we had a company that they want to do their own H-1B cases. So it's a tech company that's based here in Southern California, but they have their HR person who seems to think she can do H-1Bs on her own. And so what we offer them is a review service where we can review their files. And instead of just taking over the full case, what happened is that we've done that for a few cases. And then she kind of gave up because it was too much work. And we ended up getting the whole contract, the whole company. But in the beginning, I wasn't fighting her. I was like, well, we do have unbundled services. We can offer the review. We can do, a consultation or whatever she needs. So I think that's been really helpful for some people who cannot afford attorneys during these hard times, but at least they can get the service, at least something that can help them, get some legal help.
All right. Well, that's really nice that you're offering this. I think it's sometimes difficult for practitioners to offer unbundled services for liability reasons, and sometimes they just don't have the time capacity, because you might just walk into an issue and it may take you a week to solve something that you thought would just take you an hour. So, but I think for new practitioners, it's good to have your pricing strategies, to either decide on having a price list that across the board will be applied. So like, for instance, Stephen has explained that it helps with clients and not feeling agitated or frustrated if someone else got a better deal. For me as a young practitioner, I think that I've definitely been burnt in the past where a case takes way longer than I had thought. I think my first U visa was definitely a surprise when I realized that I may be on the hook for many years representing somebody. But I think we all have alternatives. I would say to definitely be cautious before taking on a client, and definitely thinking things through. So now we're going to move to the second part of the program, where we're actually talking about clients management. And you're finally meeting your client. You're going to have your first consultation. And here there are a lot of ways it can go. A lot of people expect free consultations. Obviously, I think across the board here, nobody offers free consultations because they just don't have the capacity, or it's not aligned with, well, actually, Stephen, you do offer free consultation, but your niche market maybe just well adjusted with this kind of policies. So maybe everybody can pitch in and provide an experience and their background opinions on this. What's behind the first meeting? Do you offer paid consultation? What's your experience?
Well, I mean, I can start. So we used to do free consultations for years, and I think it was good at the time. It just kind of helped build, just get more people in the door when times were, when you needed them. But I think what I realized is that when the clients don't pay for consultation, especially in immigration field, and I know in other areas, you lose the not respect, but you lose the kind of almost like the control that you need, specifically in the first meeting, to gain them to trust you and to follow your instructions. Because the worst thing you can do is take on a client that is going to be a problem for you and you want to get rid of them. And the way we do it is, we have a very general intake process where we meet clients on Zoom right now, obviously, where we ask questions about their case, about what they need specifically, and we let them speak. We let them tell the story, and by listening to their story and how they interact and what they need, we make a decision if they're going to be a client or not. And we train our attorneys how to do that. So, for example, there are a lot of clients that they come with their knowledge. Well, I Googled this, I have this information, the section INA from 1986. Those kind of clients we don't want to work with, because we know they're going to be a problem. We know they're going to always question what we tell them. They're always going to be an energy suck to our team members. So we try to be better at screening clients in the beginning, and therefore all consultations are paid. First, second consultations. We also have clear requirements in the fee agreement as to what's covered, what's not covered. For example, when we do an O1 case, we charge them extra to do the specific cover letter, the letters of expert. We help them with drafting anything outside of the norm. It's all kind of written down. The most important thing is to set expectations from the start. And I think once you do that, nobody can say, well, you didn't tell me that in the beginning, or you didn't tell me you're going to charge me for that. Well, it's all in writing. It's all there. So less friction. And I think that, clients less argue about fees right now because they understand what we give them. We set expectations. We introduce them to the team. They get basically a full service team that will be always on helping them. So we had less issues with people arguing about fees. And when they do argue about fees, what we do is, I started doing this about a year ago, where client will come in and say, yeah, I like you, so I saw you on YouTube, I saw you here, but you're more expensive than other attorneys I talked to. And I said, you know what, it may be right, and I'm not saying that we're the right fit for you. In fact, I'm going to give you a list of 10 other attorneys who I trust, who may be a little bit cheaper, and here's the list. And I give him a list of 10 other immigration attorneys in the area who I trust, and I know they're good colleagues, but they may charge a little bit less than us. And I give him a list and say, you know what, just call these people, and at least you'll be serviced. You're not going to leave this place without being taken care of. And usually either they'll hire us or they'll be just kind of shocked. And but that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I think having a first paid consultation does help with the screening of making sure we also have the right client. What about you, John? Have you always charged for consultations?
I've done this for a while now. So I worked at a firm where we didn't have consultation fees, but the guy has been practicing for 40 years. So he had all these referrals that were good cases. When I started my own firm, I do free consultations and be on the phone with people, whoever called for a long time, just to do it. And then at one time, this lawyer hired me and he said, after the talk, he's like, well, how much was that consultation? And I just put out a number and he paid it. I was so excited, like, oh my God, I got paid for it. Then since then, I've been consultation fee every time. But I do something that not everyone could do, but I answer my own phone calls. And so I directly, after doing probably 15,000 phone calls, within the first half a second, I already know what the whole situation of the client, just by the way they say the H and hello, I already know what's up. And so I weed out people really quickly and know their personalities, how they're going to act. And so I get off the phone as fast as possible in a respectful way so they don't leave a bad review. But what I found is, and Jacob probably is the same way, when people find you and screen you and do the research on you beforehand, they already know they want you. So the filing fee or whatever, the consultation fees, none of that makes a difference. The problems I have is, and this is other way than other attorneys always say the opposite of me, everyone does. When people refer me, like my existing clients or family members refer someone to me, and that person hasn't done the research on me ahead of time, hasn't developed that relationship with my online avatar and knows my reviews and knows who I am. Those are the people who ask me, why is this fee or justification? And I have like zero patience for that. I say, respectfully, it is what it is. Feel free to go other people or whatever. I don't care. I have enough people asking for my services, but that's what I see the problem. But when people, do the research and they know you and they develop the relationship, they're happy to pay the consultation fee. And those are not, but that quick phone call I have, I give them some guidance on which direction to go, what issues exist. Most people don't have the ears to hear, so I'll have to repeat myself sometimes, telling people exactly what to do. And then they'll keep saying, what do I need to do? And I'm like, well, we have a consultation for me to repeat myself again if you like for a third or fourth time. But generally, you have this kind of case. This is the issues. Like, I got a call yesterday, a guy, he's like, how much is an O1? And I was like, O1s could be many different things. They can have many different issues. So I'm like, I don't know. And he kept pushing on the fee, which I never say, but I said, okay, it could be between 2,000 or 3,000. It could be 10,000 for all I know. And he's like, well, that's not a range. Got angry at me. So just giving that range made it worse. So I just said, listen, it just depends on our case. I got to get to know you. So we have to have a consultation so I can get to know your background. But feel free to call other people. They might have fixed rates that match what you need. But that's just the way we do things. And be cool with giving up cases. The main thing is you got to have a pipeline of leads so that if someone says no, you don't worry about, I lost that opportunity, because there's 10 more opportunities coming right after that.
Right.
Yeah, I give, well, I refer out any business immigration cases these days to a good colleague of mine in my region. But and he does free consultations, I think 20 minutes or something. But unfortunately, he had this one that I sent to him that he really wanted to get rid of because she kept calling him, I think 3 or 4 times for free consultations. And finally, he got tired of her. But when people do that, or when they say, hey, I just fired my last lawyer, now I want to hire you, John. Those are like red flags to
Those are my favorite.
You quote the $12,000 H-1B or whatever, just to make sure they get off the phone.
Right. I think
there's a question here from Scott. He's asking, what are some appropriate ways to decline representation when it appears the client will be difficult? And I attended this webinar once with this. He wasn't an attorney, but he was like a negotiator, and he said something interesting. He said, if you talk to somebody and you really feel that you don't want to work with them, the worst thing you can do is reject them, because if you reject them, you make them more angry, and then they can go out and give you a bad review. What you want to do is you want to go through a process where they feel that we're not a good match. And what I do is I basically say, I would love to help you with your case, but right now I'm working on this big trial or something like that, where if you wait a couple of months, I can definitely help you. In fact, let me put you on my calendar so we can start working on your case in 2 months. And in fact, to reserve your spot, let's get you $500 down just to save that spot. How about that? Because I really want to work with you. When you do that, first of all, he's not going to wait 3 months. But at the same time, you don't make him feel bad. You make him feel like he's wanted, but you just can't help him because you're too busy. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's just one example, but something like that where you don't reject him, but in a way you kind of make him go away by giving him the option that we something that he was not going to do. He's not going to pay. You ask him to pay a down payment, he was not going to do it, or because you knew he's not going to do it. You know what I mean?
I've had it backfire. I've said exactly that on a case, and then she paid and waited a couple of months until I could start the case. So maybe I'll just give like a longer window, in the future. But I think it's actually a great input. Is in the first interaction, it may not work out with the client, and we may have to. We
Right.
may have to decide to part ways right away. I know I feel bad if I decide to not take on somebody during the first meeting, so I'll actually refund them. I don't say that to begin with, but I just
But
don't
what
want
if you
any
said,
guilt.
what if you said that your expertise is not deep enough to handle his matter, for example?
Right. I mean, it definitely works to, I think, let go of somebody nicely. And sometimes it's true. I mean, I just don't, I may not be knowledgeable in that specific area, but to part ways without any guilt, I usually just refund the first consultation fee. But yeah, so that's for the first interaction. I think we're going to move along a little faster to make sure that we cover all the key points. For the engagement letter, I've had Steve and John's engagement letters that were very interesting, and if they're okay with it, I will forward them to all the attendees after this webinar. Jacob, if you also want to share yours.
Yeah,
And
I
I
forgot to say
was wondering if you have any tips. We talked about some of your tips prior to this slide, but if there is something that comes to mind in terms of really setting yourself up for success with your engagement letter. So,
I find that, I mean, I don't like to get into fee disputes with clients. If it's the beginning of the case and they're upset about something, and to me, it's easier rather than to litigate their fees or what percentage they owe me. I just basically say, here's your money back. Thank you very much, and move on like that. So I've never had to rely on an engagement letter, either to enforce something, from my point of view, or to litigate something from their point of view.
right.
We have to have them, but I've never relied on them.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jacob? Do you have any tips?
For the retainer agreements. So we have obviously all the general provisions. We don't charge for mail and postage, but we do have provisions if there is more work, if there's RFE, request for evidence. If we do a particular case that is not covered, we make sure we put there. We have the provision of the trust account fees that are not used. I'll put a provision there for when we can give refunds and things like that. But otherwise, it's pretty standard.
Right.
And I think that it's very important to have that, because people, will always question, well, you told me you're going to do this, but you didn't do this, or you told me you're going to include the business plan, but so I think it's one of the key, specifically in our practice where things change so much and then clients assume that we told them things that are not true.
Right.
So it's good to keep it in writing.
Right. So you actually write the list of services of what is included and also what is not included. For instance, in an investor visa, a business plan would not be included.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. We list the items. Yeah.
Right. What about you, John? Do you also list all the services? Like I know now I've learned to even list the forms. So if something changes, I can say, well, this form was not part of it. So what about you?
One thing I recently added is, and from friends on Facebook groups that gave me ideas, if clients disappear, that's always a problem when they disappear for a month or two. It's really annoying. So I have it out where if you don't communicate within 2 weeks and it's a non-emergency, you can't document an emergency, I have the ability to pull out the case or maybe change some stuff up. So that's something I put in there because it's so obnoxious when you're working on a case and then they disappear for months and they come back, you don't know what's going on in the case, or potentially it could be a problem. So that's something I put in there to kind of control the situation.
Right. No, I think it's a great idea. I mean, for me, I've learned to list all the services that are included down to even the forms that I will be completing, the number of letters of recommendations that I would be writing. And then I also list what is not included. So for instance, accountant or business plan, whatever is not included. So I've really tried to cover all the, all the bases. And one thing that I've also found to be helpful is mentioning that things can change. So the facts can change, the law can change, the regulations, the policies, things can change. So I do leave it open that if something does change, then it may lead to a change of the flat fee. And one thing that I've also added, and I don't particularly plan on using it, but is an availability retainer. So I am a small firm and I only onboard a certain number of clients. And after I reach my, monthly, then I turn people away. So if people do change their mind and, decide to not move forward with their cases, I would definitely take into account that there is a loss of revenue because I would be losing that business. So I've added an availability retainer to my agreements, and we've
Yes,
talked
Sarah,
about. Mhm.
I was just gonna say, that's interesting because my wife had a doctor she'd seen for years and years, and the person, she went out on her own, and the doctors now are doing this thing called concierge practice,
Mhm.
where you'll pay, $1,000 or $1,200 a year, but you've got their cell phone and you can call them at any time. And I wonder if has anybody thought is there any thing that would prevent lawyers from doing that? Because some people, the
It is.
E2 investor types, I mean, if they can pay to know they can always get through to you, I think it would be a good idea.
Well, it's exactly that. People have my cell phone number. I'm available. I always answer. So it's exactly what I offer. And it is being available, making sure you don't have too many people where you can't get back to them. And I think there is a value to it. I do think most of us actually offer some kind of a concierge service. We're available. We work with a clientele that basically wants direct access to their attorneys. So I do think there's a price for it, for sure. So it's interesting to see that your wife is interested in services like that, maybe with doctors, and I think it could work for the legal field. We've talked about additional fees, and it seems like everybody has agreed that we're billing separately for RFE. So basically something additional to the initial file and application that we would send with our flat fee. Stephen, you also have an admin fee, so that would cover postage copies. And I don't know if everybody has an admin fee. One thing that I've recently started is also a yearly maintenance fee. So for cases that just drag on for a long time, we have a fee each year for me to have like a quick consultation with clients, making sure they're not moving, and me checking on their cases. So I don't know if anybody has added this to their practice. No, your clients are lucky.
Not here.
Yeah.
We don't have a maintenance fee, but we do have what is called, out of scope services. So for example, let's say case has gone on for like 2 years and now we need to do more updates and stuff like that. So it's kind of out of scope. This was the scope of your retainer. Now we're going to a new phase. So we definitely will add that.
That's good. I think it definitely covers more bases. And now moving to collecting fees. So I don't know if any of you have ever had problems with payments and they want to share their experience, what has worked, what doesn't work. So I don't know, maybe John, tell us a little bit about your policy in collecting fees and if you've had any issues in the past.
No, I mean, I have policy that it's all paid up front. And so I'm just waiting for that. And we talk about payment systems. I generally don't accept any credit cards. I even charge an admin fee separately if you're going to do that. But most times just say it's cash, check, or Zelle or something like that. I have a smaller volume practice, so it's easier to do that. But I know a lot of people say it's foolish even to not accept credit cards. But other than the consultation fee, because I have a system where it automatically scheduling pay by credit card, so I'll take a hit on that. But generally, I just say, just pay cash, and my clients will always come up with it. It's never been an issue, but if you have a large scale practice, it's hard to do something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As I said, specifically in the past year, we've seen a lot of clients who are not able to pay on their fees, and so we use a billing system where we schedule them. They usually pay half up front, and then the rest, depending on, we have a fee schedule. But yeah, definitely. So we try to work with them. We have the billing person will call and try to find different ways for them to make payments. Even some companies, some of our corporate clients have
Mhm.
had some hard times. We do a lot of restaurants. I do a lot of H2Bs and H3s for restaurants, and they had, at some point, they brought 10, 15 people at a time, and so renewals are happening and they're not able to pay, so we have to find a way to work out a monthly so we use low pay to do
The
the monthly.
reminder.
Yeah, they just no, well, it collects directly from the
Oh, yeah,
credit
yeah.
card every month.
Automatic
But
payments.
if the cards get declined, then we have somebody call and say, well, if there's a better way for you to pay, do you want to do a wire transfer? Or so
Mhm.
we definitely had to have those conversations more with clients, just to kind of find ways to help them. But I guess it's a sign of the times. But I think as long as you are on it, as long as they can see that you're doing your work and you're compassionate, they are definitely willing to pay. I mean, if clients, I mean, we don't have that many clients that refuse to pay. It's just that they're slow to pay
Yeah.
sometimes, especially recently. So as long as you work with them and you show them that we are open to being flexible, I think eventually they do pay.
Right. What about you, Steve? Have you ever had any issue?
I think like Jacob, we use LawPay, and it allows people, they process the credit cards. We also use a program, Bill for Time, which, even though we don't put time in, it generates the invoices and allows them to do the wire transfers directly into our account. And so I've never really, again, since we don't start the case until we're paid, I've never had a dispute really.
Right. It seems like waiting for the fee to come in prior to starting the work is a great way to just to make sure that you're gonna get paid. I had a business coach who told me that people only pay if there is still some pain. So basically, she meant that people will pay if they're still waiting on something from you. So I mean, I've definitely, sent in applications prior to be fully paid, and it's definitely difficult to get paid once in a while if you do that. So I'm trying not to do this anymore and to just be a lot more diligent about getting paid. And have any of you ever had to contact a collection agency? It's something I would hate to do. I think it would be difficult for the client, for us, maybe for our reputation, but I'm wondering if anybody's ever had to do it.
No, I mean, I don't believe in it. I think it's bad for your practice. I mean, like I say, if you have too many clients that don't pay you, that means you have some problems.
Right.
So if once in a while, every 2 years, somebody, we have clients that it happened, and doesn't happen very often, but it did happen a couple of times where they didn't pay a big chunk of their fee. They just disappeared, and
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, it's better just to let it go. If you start worrying about 1-2 clients who didn't pay you, then there's plenty of opportunities out there. There's more clients coming in every single day. So I think it's bad karma.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Better to
Yeah.
put your energy into something directly productive. So now that we've talked about how to not be underpaid, there is always this. I think being underpaid is a feeling. It's not something that is cut and dry. So people may have the feeling that they don't make enough money, and they might grow to be maybe just resent their career. So I was wondering if any of you would advise anybody to maybe seek some help in terms of thriving economically in their practice. So maybe hiring a business coach or maybe a marketing firm, or if you just have other tips for people to just feel fulfilled with where they're at in their career, and also feel like they're progressing towards like a plan that they put in place for themselves?
So I think no matter what you do, if you're an attorney or any business owner, it's always important to continue educating yourself and improving I mean, we don't know everything. I keep investing every year thousands of dollars in programs. I have a business coach. I go to conferences. I mean, right now it's not physical, but I spend, like I said, a lot of money just to improve myself every single day. And I think it's important to do that, because otherwise, you never move forward. You know what I mean? You always stay kind of in the same. I don't want to be like what I was last year. I want to move forward, right? So I'll take another course. I'll talk to my coach and get some advice, and and the same thing for me. People hire me to help them, so it's kind of there's always somebody who knows more than you, right? That's just the beauty of our world.
Hey, Jacob, is your coach a lawyer or a retired lawyer? Or?
No, he's not a lawyer. He's the thing is, I would never get coaching from an attorney, and I'll tell you why. Because in my work, the way I operate more as a business owner as opposed to an attorney. The attorneys that I coach, they are pure attorneys, and they need help to be an attorney, but also make sure their business is successful. For me, I need more of a business. So my coach is he's a former telecom executive who sold two of his companies, and he's basically right now that's what he does, right? So I like to pick his brain to see 1,000-mile view of my business or other stuff, and that's kind of why I like to work with somebody like that, who's not in my space, and he can give me an honest opinion as to what I'm doing wrong and how I can improve myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Reminds me of the line. I wouldn't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member of the club. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's kind of like I
telling you,
wouldn't
that's
want
what
to
it
have
is.
a lawyer coach me.
Because I just feel like we need a little. I need something different, just kind of to get my mind thinking, and then I'll apply those principles to my legal practice, and that's how I always do it.
I know we have a colleague in Orlando, and she's been posting some things on Facebook of how she's hired a marketing firm recently, and she gave some examples, and I think it can be useful if they're experienced in giving marketing advice to immigration attorneys.
Absolutely.
Right. What about you, John? Because you also help, you also basically train new, well, not just new, but immigration lawyers for the substantive part of immigration law. Do you also provide some input in like running a business? Like,
Yeah,
what would
the
you?
course was twofold, both in training and immigration law and the business. I'm kicking down the business stuff less. It's a individual course, but it's hard because you're going to put down a bunch of money and you never know, am I going to get anything out of this? So it's hard to trust somebody. But in the end, like, from the last 2 years experience where I've been buying a lot of courses and constantly viewing this stuff, is the same idea of where our clients hire us and say, well, the forms are there, I could do it. There's something that a person with experience that could add. You may talk to them for an hour, 10 hours, might be a 20-hour video course, but 1 minute of it will change something that'll make you an extra $100,000 or make your life better. So, that's why like I read like a book every 2 days, and more than half the time I already know what's in the book, but I'm looking for that one sentence that's going to be a game changer. And so that's all it is. So that one sentence is what value brings, just like our clients when they hire us. And a lot of times you could do it, but one little piece of information could avoid them from getting RFE or extra delay or just having a heads up on constant processing. And so you got to invest in that. And, you might spend a couple of thousand and one program you have wasn't good, but another was. There's also a time commitment of sitting there watching videos or reading these books. So that is just as much of the money. But it's really key to take things to the next level, to just have help it when people who've done it, or just people who come at it from a different perspective will see things different from you because you're in a box, in a bubble. As much as you're outside the box thinker, and I think I am, there's always an angle that you're not seeing that someone else will see that's going to be helpful.
No, for sure. I think it was a great perspective on the whole subject, and I'm so glad that you guys were available to provide your experience. And I think it's a great way to start the new year to try to concentrate on growing our business organically with a plan, and also to invest in ourselves. I think from the three of you who are greatly successful and really established, what I see is that you all still invest in yourself every day, and in a way you're still hustling, and I love this energy. So I think for everybody watching, I hope that you've enjoyed everybody's input and their energy, and that you start this year right. And thank you so much.
Thank you for organizing this and for the ABA.
Thank you.